Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bionicle Inspiration Series, the show where we showcase Bionicle MOCs from across the community to inspire you. And today, we've got a fan-submitted MOCs episode, which we do every 10th episode of the Bionicle Inspiration Series, and we're going to showcase 10 fan-submitted MOCs to you today. So, if you're wondering how do I submit my MOCs, what's the deal with that, it's plain and simple. The submission email is on your screen right now. The MOCs will either A, be featured every 10th episode in one of the fan-submitted MOCs episodes, or they'll just be featured in any random episode of the Bionicle Inspiration Series. There isn't any sort of set thing with that. And speaking of any sort of set thing, you don't have any sort of set rules with submitting your stuff. Just send me an email to that email that's on your screen. Include any information you feel is important about the MOC, the name that you want to go by, the name of the MOC, pictures of the MOC, and guess what? Even if you include nothing and just pictures, that's still enough to go off of. So there's no sort of set rules to that. Just do what you think is best. But without further ado, let's dive in and let's talk about these 10 fan-submitted MOCs. The very first one we've got today is by Bionicles, and this is a revamp of Krekka. So of course, this is more heavily inspired by Krekka from the Mask of Light movie. A lot of people like to do this with kind of all of the characters from the different Bionicle movies, which were fantastic movies. If you haven't watched them, I don't know how well they age in modern society, but I thoroughly enjoyed them as a kid, so I'm sure you'd enjoy rewatching it for nostalgia or seeing it again for the first time, who knows. Krekka, I think, looked very different in the movie to how he did in his set, and the set itself was lovely. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that original set, one of my favorites, honestly. But yeah, that look is just so different. So it's really nice to see a lot of different Krekka revamps, which we've seen a few across the Bionicle Inspiration series, but this one really shines for me. I thoroughly enjoy it. So obviously studying that source material there from the movie, and that's always just a good thing to be doing with any MOC, is looking up source material, whether if it's based off something, or maybe you're basing it off a real life creature, looking up some inspiration for that. All sorts of different things. Just do a quick Google, study the images, see what you can find. And there's certainly some similarities between Mask of Light Krekka and this MOC here. Specifically in the shoulders. I love how he's used those Nakama masks there to really give it that sort of, I don't know, kind of bulk. I don't know what sort of term you would use to define that there, but it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? So very nice looking shoulder design there. The head design is also absolutely awesome. Very sort of system heavy, which nothing wrong with that. System's your friend. It works perfectly with your Bionicle. But yeah, it perfectly captures that head design there. It looks amazing. And some more system being used on the waist there, using that sort of triangular piece that I believe came on some Nexonite sets. That works really well for a torso there. So I don't know, study some of your system pieces. They, like we can see here, they work perfectly for a waist design. So if you're struggling with a waist design, maybe that's something that could help. I thoroughly enjoyed the lower arms as well, using some of the Metru torso pieces in white to kind of form the bulk of the arm and then sort of transition it into the individual kind of fingers and, for lack of a better term, hands. The hands and the arm kind of just blend into one here, but it's still a nice design. And Krekka doesn't need to follow traditional human anatomy. He's his own independent woman. He can do whatever he wants, I like that design there. I think it works flawlessly, and there's still a good whack of posability in those fingers there. So it's just a solid looking design. And honestly, this whole MOC is a solid looking design. There's a lot of really, really nice stuff going on here. So love your work, and always love it to see MOCs based off the Mask of Light movie. On to the next MOC now. This guy here is a Toa of Sand known as Piejeska, and this is built by Cameron Miller. So what I like so much is like you said, this is a Toa of Sand, and I think the color scheme kind of decently reflects that pretty well. Obviously tan. There's a color of sand that works well. Brown as well, sometimes you get that sort of dirtier sand that can look a little bit more brown, so I think the kind of combination of colors there works perfectly. But what I like too is sort of some of these other additions here that I think kind of better illustrate the sort of like desert, sandy kind of elements that this MOC is aiming for. So the first thing that really grabbed me was the inclusion of that sort of bamboo leaf piece in dark tan that's on the torso there. To me, that kind of reminds me of you sort of like dried up plants or sort of like weeds and different things that you might find out in the bush or in the desert or whatever. And it's just really fitting. I think it just kind of makes sense, taking different elements from the environment and using it as like armor or different sort of clothing or materials or whatever. It's smart. It's cool. It's a really sort of clever addition there that I think really works with the element that this MOC is in command of. Some other nice additions include all the different sort of smaller claw pieces that have been included on the feet, on the upper arms there, and that kind of it from what I can see in this one photo. But to me, that kind of looks like, I don't know, maybe like bones from different creatures, maybe again, even sort of smaller leaves and different things that he sort of put on as sort of armor of sorts, which I don't know, I think that's just a really clever design there. And it kind of makes sense. You know, you think of like Tusken Raiders or other sort of different kind of characters from fiction that live out in deserts or live out in more harsher climates, and what sort of things that they put on their body or use as armor, and it might have a sort of ceremonial purpose or a sort of like a story purpose or whatever, but it just kind of works and it makes sense. It seems fitting that they take things from the environment and use it to their advantage, especially too like the Vorok skull that's sort of been placed over the top of the weapon here. Kind of reminds me of like in Book of Boba Fett, we see a sandcrawler that has a Krayt Dragon skull on the top. So yeah, it just kind of seems really fitting, you know, just what I was saying with all the bone stuff before. You know, maybe that's the skull of a kill that he recently got, and so he wears it like a trophy or something, which, you know, don't hunt, kids. It's not always, you know, the nicest thing for the poor animals, but in this fictional universe, we can enjoy this here. So I think that's just a really sort of fun, creative addition, and some clever ideas there to kind of relate it back to it being a Toa of Sand or desert or, you know, whatever you want it to be in that sense. So pretty cool. Let's move over to the next mock now. This is built by Isaac Vladov, and this is Bioshock bouncer Big Daddy. So, of course, obviously, this is based off the game Bioshock, a game I myself have not played, unfortunately. I'm sure it'd be a lot of fun, but there's only so much time and so many video games. But this is a fairly iconic character. I've certainly seen this a lot. And this, I think, is a pretty awesome rendition of it, especially comparing it to actual sort of images of it and stuff like that. It's been well done. So I thoroughly enjoyed the sort of body head design that he has going on here. Again, very similar to the source material, using all of those translucent dish pieces there to kind of get that sort of eye helmet shape, and then kind of building this sort of like roll cage thing out of all these different sort of Technic connector pieces there. It looks really cool, and again, it just perfectly matches that source material there, so really, really nicely done. From what I can also see in some different source material images when I Google it, the different CCBS armor pieces here kind of perfectly capture the sort of bulkier design of this character, so I think that's awesome, and it's really well done. And the drill arm, just... You gotta love a good drill arm. I think it's just a lovely weapon, and yeah, sure, he only has one hand, so it makes, I don't know, cooking dinner a little bit more difficult, but, you know, it's a nice offensive weapon, and I've always enjoyed when characters have drills as weapons for their arm. There's just something cool about it, that it's like, I can go mining if I want, I can chisel away at some rock, or I can, you know, drill you in the face, and it'll probably really hurt, and that's my weapon, you know? I don't know, there's something that's always gravitated me towards that as a design, so drills are an underrated weapon. If you're looking for a weapon in your mocks, maybe consider some drills. And speaking of weapons, maybe you should stay tuned to the channel, because there might be something related to weapons coming out soon. Oh, exciting. Anyway, so yeah, I think this is a fantastic rendition of Big Daddy from Bioshock there. Really, really nicely done. On to the next mock. This one here is built by Unoriginal, and it did not have a name in the email. So you know what? Sound off in the comments. What do you think it's going to be called? We can figure out a name right here, right now. Although he did say that this mock in the email wasn't finished yet, although it looks pretty finished to me, so really good job there. So maybe a name was coming later, you know. Naming doesn't always have to be something you immediately think of when you build the mock, I suppose. So maybe the name's still yet to come, we'll see. Anyway, this is a fantastic looking mock here. There's just a beautiful sort of smooth overall texture to this, using a whole bunch of different system pieces there on the arm, these larger Technic panel pieces. We can see some of those rectangular ones on the thighs there, but we can also see them on the lower legs and the upper arms as well. That just looks really, really cool, and just such a beautiful sort of smooth, organic looking texture here because of it. So definitely take a look at your Technic sets, because those Technic panel pieces like that, they're such nice pieces, and they can work perfectly for Bionicle. So don't sleep on your Technic. It can certainly aid you in your Bionicle mocks there, or your non-Bionicle mocks, your Hero Factory mocks, your whatevers, your construction mocks. That's the word. The torso design is lovely, using some of these awesome like macaroni pipe pieces here, which is such a helpful piece. We've seen them being used a few times here on the Bionicle Inspiration series. They're just lovely. They're so versatile. And gosh, it creates such a unique looking texture just to sort of layer them all in like that. And just create this beautiful sort of like piping all throughout the body there. It's a sight to behold. It's very nice. And speaking of something that's very nice, I thoroughly enjoy this head design here. Very sort of lifelike and humanoid in nature, but looks a little bit more robotic. He's got that sort of like tubing and kind of like a breath mask or something with those little minifigure ski pieces there. It just looks cool. It's just a beautiful looking head design. I wish there were a few more pictures of it in the email here, but I was only sent one and had to do some zooms and things. So a little bit more difficult to see the head design there, but it looks good from what I can see. So that's awesome. I also enjoy the like fire extinguisher on his leg. I guess it's a fire extinguisher. It looks like it's got a sticker that has a little fire extinguisher thing on it. I don't know if that's like a weapon. Maybe this dude's a firefighter, which is great. I love that. Or maybe, I don't know, he's just sort of got some like barrel built into the side of his leg because he's a robot or something. I don't know, but it's a fun little detail on that. Little sort of subtle pop of red I think actually goes a long way. But now I'm picturing this guy with like a firefighter helmet and a big old hose and stuff. It's kind of cool. I like the idea of like a firefighter sort of themed Bionicle character like that. It could be cool. It could be a unique way of doing a Toa of Water as well. Like they fight fires and they've got all the sort of fire equipment and stuff. Something to consider. But yeah, I don't know. Again, there was no information in the email about this character specifically, which is fine. You don't need to include that. But it's fun to imagine, and that's what I'm imagining with this character. And they did say that this mock was unfinished, so maybe that's the direction they're going to go. We'll find out. But regardless, just some beautiful organic shaping here, lovely use of those pipe pieces, and just some fantastic designs all around. This is a gorgeous looking mock. On to the next one. This one here is built by Nimbus, and this is Hekili Toa of Thunder. So we spoke before with the Toa of Sand that we saw before how the kind of color scheme and some of the other sort of aesthetics of the mock really tied back to the element that this character was in control of. And what I like about this mock is it does it in a similar but different way. I love how some of the poses he's in, just sort of the more nimble, sort of lanky look of this character, and mainly kind of the torso, how it sort of has those very large, again, Technic panel pieces that sort of flare out into the back there. There's this real sort of sense of like motion and quickness to this character, which makes sense. When you think of lightning, when you think of thunder, all that sort of stuff, you think of sort of zip, zap, zoom, quick. There's that sort of sense of movement and speed to it. It's like when you see the Flash running and there's all the electricity kind of, flaring out the back of him, that sort of thing. It just seems appropriate, right? So I love that the sort of specific like aesthetic choices that were decided for this character was that sense of like quickness, speed, agility, and this sort of like repeated use of very sort of like sharp dynamic lines and these larger pieces that sort of flare back as if it's sort of like speed lines or something. It's just appropriate for that. So I love that idea. If you're planning on building a mock, how can the way that you build it sort of relate back to the element that they have that power of? Maybe you're building a Toa of Water, so you want to sort of have armor that's a little bit more kind of like wavy or kind of free-flowing like you would think water would be. Or maybe you're building a Toa of Fire, so they're a little bit more sort of like hot-headed and edgy and maybe a little bit more kind of like rugged, so you use sort of like sharper textures or something like that. Something to consider. Or I don't know, you're building a Toa of Stone, so they've got really like kind of jagged, rocky-looking designs. Something to consider, So really nice attention to detail with that there. It's cool as heck. I love the head design as well, this custom mask here. Always love a good custom mask just because, it's nice to see new, unique masks because, we don't really get any these days because there's no more construction sets. But it does look pretty cool. I think it really kind of completes this mock here. And you can find those on different like shapeways and you can 3D print some or you can just order some online. There's a whole bunch of different places you can go for that sort of thing. So really nice to see that being used on this mock very well here. Unique sort of like knee design here, using a CCBS armor shell piece as a sort of more pronounced knee, which that in itself we've seen before, but it always looks nice. But what I think is unique is the inclusion of these dish pieces, sort of inserting them on the side of the knee there. It just kind of looks nice. Just a nice way of sort of differentiating the lower and the upper leg and sort of really rounding off that knee. And it kind of, I don't know, it gives this sense that you could kind of see it moving and... I don't know, it looks sort of more mechanical and robotic in a sense. And I don't know why I like it, it just looks cool. So overall, a fantastic looking mock, and a lovely color scheme too. Dark blue, silver, and yellow. Dark blue and the yellow there. Really, really cool. Really pops. It's nice. Next mock now, this is another yellow mock. This is by Brandon Builds, and this is Rahkshi Son of Makuta. This is a fantastic revamp of the original kind of Stars Rahkshi and taking the awesome sort of yellow color scheme there and applying it to the Rahkshi, which I always loved because yellow was my favorite color as a kid. I go back and forth with favorite colors now. It's probably blue now, but also it's kind of whatever color I'm currently building with, which is probably like, I don't know, like dark orange right now. I don't know. I go back and forth with colors. I like every color. I'm weird like that, but yeah, it's fine. Still, I've always loved this color scheme for a Rahkshi, so it's always nice to see revamps of this specific Rahkshi here. One thing that I love that's really unique about this Rahkshi mock, because a lot of people make the Rahkshis, and there's so many different ways of doing it, but this one here is a little bit more unique. The way that he's implied the Krana on this Rahkshi, because of course with the original Rahkshi sets, there were sort of like suits that were powered by these sort of like slug-like Krana creatures, but you know, typically on the set, it was just sort of inserted into the back. But I like here that there's all these lime details that sort of flow through the neck, the back, and then into the tail. So I like that idea that the crater is sort of much bigger here and actually can sort of be seen from the outside, like it's sort of poking through the armor, kind of comes out in the tail and into the neck and stuff like that. That's just, it's really unique and really different. And it's just a nice way of not only adding a nice pop of color to this, but it's just a clever, unique take on the original concept there, which is always cool. So really, really nicely done there. And also something else that's really nicely done is including those quasar spike pieces in silver there and using them for the sort of like spine spikes on the back of the Rahkshi, because that's kind of your main sort of staples with most Rahkshi mocks, is that they've got a staff, they've got the back spikes, and your typical kind of Rahkshi head as well. So yeah, a lot of really nice ways of doing all three of those different things, and I think the quasar spikes there is a fantastic choice and just works well, you know, it's cool. But overall, a really nice sort of menacing kind of stance and look to this character here. There's this one shot here where he's sort of scaring off one of the, he's scaring off Takua specifically. It just looks cool. The flames on the eyes as well, just sort of neatly inserting those very small system flame pieces in there. Yeah, it's just a little fun detail and a unique way of doing the eyes there. It works really well. But yeah, really, really, really cool. And I think one of my favorite little details, sort of on the back here, you can see the inclusion of some of those dots, kind of quarter tile pieces there on the upper arms. Really subtle detail, but I like it. I don't know, it's just a cool way of getting a little bit of extra color on the back there, and something about it that looks a little bit more kind of like scale-like, and I would argue Rahkshi look a little bit kind of like lizards, so it's fitting enough. Yeah, it's just cool. It's just really cool. So love your work here. Really, really nice take on revamping a Rahkshi. Love your work. On to the next mock. This one here is built by Charlie, and I just named this dragon because it didn't have a name in the email, but it's a dragon. So Charlie here, he's a youngin', he's 8 years old. Always love seeing some of the younger generation getting into Bionicle, so I definitely wanted to spotlight his build here. One thing I love about it is it uses one of the newer Ninjago dragon head pieces, which is a headpiece I thoroughly adore. It's teal, gotta love teal as a color, but also it's one of the derpiest looking dragon heads that exists. He looks so like rabid and crazy and wild. It's kind of fun. So I like that he's included that here because it's just a fun headpiece. And hey, use some of your Ninjago pieces in your Bionicle stuff because there's always some good overlap between those two different themes of Lego there. So something to consider. And something else that I like is it kind of reminds me of Weasel from the Suicide Squad movie. And the fact that he's made the rest of this dragon fairly kind of like lanky. There's something about this dragon mock here that looks very kind of like rabid and wild, and it looks like it would like bite your leg and chew it off and like run around their house and just destroy things or something. There's this kind of wild look to this dragon here, which I quite enjoy, and a lot of that kind of comes out of that specific head there. So it's cool to see how just including that one Ninjago dragon head piece there can really kind of bring this character to life. It's pretty cool, and I like the fact that he's got a sort of like anglerfish style kind of glowy bioluminescent thing kind of poking out of his head there. Just a fun, unique detail that I think works pretty well. So pretty cool. Love your work, good sir. Please build some more Bionicle mocks, and I look forward to seeing more as you grow older. On to the next mock now. This here is by Nathan Hake, and this is Royal Guard. This is an awesome looking mock with a pretty sick looking shield, which is very sort of system heavy there, but it's awesome how he's included all these different sort of sword and wing pieces here to create this almost sort of like phoenix bird design there, which is so cool. It's I think this MOC really shines with its inclusion of a whole bunch of different system pieces, whether that's the different sort of smaller chain pieces there on the bottom of the armor, sort of like chainmail or some sort of more kind of free-flowing armor that would protect him there. That's a lovely design. But also the inclusion of the sort of trident piece in gold on the torso there. Sort of looks like the armor is a little bit more ornate or has a sort of like crest or pattern on it. That's just such a cool design and a great little inclusion of little sort of greebles or smaller details there to just, I don't know, really take this MOC to another level. So all those different system inclusions here are just phenomenal. I also love the fact that, well, actually, quickly, the additional system pieces that kind of make up his awesome sort of weapon here. All those different light bluish grey kind of slope pieces there, and even just the nice little addition of that sort of pyramid piece there in gold. Just again, little system stuff that really makes that weapon pop. It looks cool. I love, too, the fact that he's used a lot of Knight's Kingdom pieces, whether that's the actual mask there, or the shoulder armor, or the leg armor. So I'll show you here's a couple sets that some of those pieces appeared in, and just other kind of Knight's Kingdom sets as well, because there was a decent enough amount of those Knight's Kingdom sets. I believe there were sort of 3 different waves. I don't know how many years it lasted. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's what Google's for. Regardless, though, Knight's Kingdom was such an awesome theme because it was construction for the most part. It was very sort of system heavy and used a lot of sort of system pieces and even had the sort of offshoot system sets for it as well. But you can perfectly use and very easily use some of these pieces for your Bionicle stuff because it's construction after all. So always nice to see Knight's Kingdom stuff being used, and it makes sense. If you're going to build a knight, may as well look to some Knight's Kingdom pieces because the pieces very perfectly reflect armor and helmets and all that sort of different stuff. So lovely to see those being put to such good use and combined very nicely with CCBS as well, specifically like on the knees, and also just seeing the shoulder armor kind of transition into the lower armor there as well. It's a pretty nice combination. So love your work there, good sir. You've certainly implemented those two themes together very nicely. All right, on to the next MOC. This is Arc 64 MOCs, and this is Omega Team Shadow Platoon Surge Infiltration Specialist. A big name, but a cool. Especially because the way that these sort of digital renders of this MOC look, it kind of looks like a dark blue version of Surge, which that's cool. I wish these pieces came in dark blue. That would be amazing. It might kind of just be the lighting. Maybe this is intended to actually just be blue, but regardless, it's pretty sick. So what I love about this is the fact that this is your sort of typical kind of CCBS sort of rough frame. You know, you've got the CCBS armor shells and the legs and the arms and the but the torso and the legs and stuff are just really bulky and lovely looking, you know? The fact that he's, like even the very first hashtag for this on Flickr is Hero Armor Mark 10. I kind of love this idea of really, bulking up your Hero Factory MOCs and adding all this sort of armor and detail and stuff to them, just to make them look even cooler, you know? Because you could argue some of the original sets might have been a little bit more sort of like skinny or just sort of a little bit more kind of gappy and stuff. But this design here really kind of rounds it out, bulks it up, and just makes them look even more cooler. Like they've really got sort of like armor or more sort of like specialized gear or something on, and it's just awesome. So little subtle thing there, but I think it really makes this MOC shine. Love the different weapons here. Some of them are massive, almost taller than he is. And it's just fun when MOCs go really ham with different weapons and such. And you know, if you check the links in the description, you can read the description for this MOC, and they do go into pretty heavy detail about the weapons, and they kind of almost make the weapons sort of a part of this character, which is always nice. You know, sure, you can build a weapon, and it can sometimes be like an afterthought or just a sort of, oh yeah, I got to give them a weapon. Here they can have this one. But it's always nice when weapons really sort of become a part of the MOC in that sense, and there's almost sort of like this attachment to them almost. So you get this sense that he really is this sort of like weapons specialist that, well, you know, he knows what he's doing, and he's the sniper. He's trained for this sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't know, the fact that he's gone really ham with those weapons, I think it says something about the character. It's really cool, and they're awesome weapon designs too. So definitely study those and do your best to reverse engineer them, or just get some inspiration from them, and maybe you can build some similar weapons for your own Bionicle or Hero Factory MOCs. which of course we just finished HF Feb, which was certainly a blast and a good time, and it certainly seems like everyone really enjoyed those, so thank you very much for that. But yeah, of course, just because this is the Bionicle Inspiration series doesn't mean I won't feature more Hero Factory stuff across it, so keep sending your HF stuff, it's always good. So, love this, love Surge, so fantastic looking revamp. On to the final mock now. This is another mock by Anthony Wilson, and this is Abyssal Daemon. I don't know how you say that with the A in there, but that was there for a reason, so we're saying it weirdly. This is awesome. This is a fantastic mock. Anthony hasn't posted for a bit, and he came back swinging in January with this one here. It's fantastic. Head design is awesome with this sort of like crescent moon horn-shaped thing. Just looks cool. And these beautiful kind of pink ball joints, they really, really pop there. I'm pretty sure they're ball joints anyway. Again, there's only a couple images of this on the Flickr, so it's a little hard to tell, but by the looks of it, they appear to be ball joints, which I didn't know existed in pink, but gosh, it looks cool. And pink up against the sort of very primarily black color scheme on this mock. It really pops and looks cool. There's just such a beautiful kind of menacing demon-like quality to this head design. It's something special. I also thoroughly enjoy the hand design. Very sort of simply designed. You can kind of see how it's done here. Just your typical kind of hand socket, some sort of different axles and things there to support the rest, and then a dish. And I imagine, I don't know what that is. It looks like maybe like a steering wheel piece from different sort of Technic sets and things. I at first thought it was one of those system like octagonal kind of connector pieces, which I talk about a fair bit on this show as well. But regardless, it's a cool looking arm design there, and you can get those fingers on multiple different angles because you're using that tire element. So just a more unique way of doing it. And I like the kind of consistency that the hands have that sort of larger dish piece. The head has that dish piece as well. So just some nice kind of consistency all throughout the mock, really kind of ties it together and makes it look more sort of like unified and whole. It's really nice. The tail design's pretty simple, just using some of those very small Hero Factory bone pieces, but it gets the job done and it works pretty well, so it's a nice little design. And I love the little pop of dark blue on the wings there. I don't know if that's sort of like fur or what that specifically is, but dark blue is very sort of close on the color spectrum to black, so makes sense and looks pretty cool. Just a nice looking wing design, but also really nice for the rest of the wing design, which is quite massive. Just the sort of more like kind of bone-like design to these wings. There's no sort of cloth in between it, which you can more typically see on a wing design to make it a bit more sort of like closer to a bat or a dragon or something. But I like the fact that it's just sort of like the bones of it. It makes sense for a demon in this case. So, hey, maybe if you are building a wing design, you don't need to put any sort of cloth or any sort of connections in between the different elements. Just do it like this, make it almost look like fingers or something, and just, I don't know, give it a cool looking wing design like that. I think it's pretty cool. So, lovely little design there, and just in general, a fantastic mock from Anthony Wilson, and it's Anthony Wilson. We expect nothing else from him. He's a very, very talented builder. So if you want to see some more from Anthony Wilson or from any of these builders, check the links in the description, because all the links to their social media and mocks and all that sort of stuff is there. So by all means, check that out. I told you before, submission email. It's mentioned at the start of the episode, but it's also in the description if you want to copy and paste that and then send me the email that way. Remember, it's not a link. You need to send me an email. Additionally, the description also has links to my own social media, so if you want to see some of the stuff that I've got going on Flickr, Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff, that's the place to check it out. Thank you very much for watching and listening and enjoying. I'll see you in the next episode. I don't know what the theme for that episode's going to be, but hey, it'll be something good, I'm sure. So hey, if you've got a theme that you want to suggest, leave it in the comments below or something like that, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now, and happy building.